I would say is, as business architecture practitioners, we need to stop talking about business architecture. The magic is where we actually get people to understand the value of business architecture.
It will help people see business architecture as a way of organizing, understanding, not as a modeling exercise.
Business architecture will provide you with the business lens of the impacts and the how and the why, whereas then the other architecture domains come in and help as well. So we have to know that solid base and the connections in order to then go and provide the value of business architecture.
And that's why we have this series together, to connect everything, to tell business arcs out there, guys, we have a lot to do. It's not about artifacts only. It's about bringing the right value to the organization and to the right stakeholders. Welcome back to the Business Architecture Explained. Imagine walking into a large building for the first time. You see a lot of rooms, hallways, staircases, elevators. Everything looks busy and functional, but no one shows you the blueprint. You might understand individual rooms, you might even find your way around for a while, but you won't really understand how the building works or why it was designed that way. That's how many people experience business architecture. They see capability maps, they see value streams, they see different models, different diagrams, but they are never shown the full blueprint that connects everything together. So in today's episode, we are stepping back from the artifacts and focusing on the structure behind them. Before we talk about domains, before we talk about strategy, execution, we want to answer one core question. How does business architecture actually work as a discipline, a whole discipline? And more importantly, why is the metamodel the hidden structure that keeps everything coherent, consistent, and useful for real decision making? By the end of this episode, the goal is simple. You should be able to see business architecture as a connected system, not as a diagrams or a collection of diagrams. And to explore that with me, I'm joined again by Breanne Casteel. Breanne, welcome back. It's great to continue this conversation with you.
Thank you. I love this topic. I'm excited.
Awesome. Let me start with the first question. When people say they don't really get business architecture, what do you think they are actually struggling with?
Love this question because you're bringing out what so many think, that they feel the frustration. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, they don't ask the question, I just don't get it. And then there's frustration on the other side saying, but what don't you get? It's so easy to understand, but it depends on what side of the fence you're on. So when we say people, I want to hit this at two sides of the fence, if you will. So if we were talking about the business stakeholders, so it's not the practitioner, it's you, me sitting here, it's our business stakeholders. Maybe we're trying to get business architecture implemented. Maybe we're trying to sell the value to a new stakeholder, a business unit. They're just not getting it. What I would say is, as business architecture practitioners, we need to stop talking about business architecture. Don't talk about, well, the capability, here's our capabilities, here's our value streams, this is what you should be doing. And instead, listen to them, find their pain points, hear what we can help them with. Just ask them open-ended questions. Then when you respond to them as a business architecture practitioner, you can respond with, this is how business architecture can help you in your terms. This is the scenario. This is the services that we could provide. Hey, we can help connect you to these other business units and see when I hear an inefficiency here, let me help you make that more efficient. That's what we need to be explaining to the other side of the fence, if you will, not the artifacts. So that is really going to help when people don't understand business architecture from our standpoint. Okay. Now, the other side, us, internally, the business architecture practitioners, if you're new to the practice, learning about it, just don't get it because, again, as we talked about previously, the blanket statement is it's a bridge between strategy and execution. Holy cow, that is huge. What do you mean? Because that spans the whole business. Are you kidding me? How can one person or one role do that? Well, then I would say trust the process. And by the process, I mean what we're going over in this series as well. So go through all of the segments, fit them together, piece them together. But then once you understand the why of business architecture, then understand the what, dig into how, which we'll go into later in this episode, what pieces of business architecture I really need to understand. But you really have to know the fundamentals before you can start piecing it together. That is going to be the magic of business architecture, to say, now I can respond to my business architects really quick, our elevator speech of how can I help you? Not just that it's a bridge between strategy and execution, but I can help you make your business unit more efficient. I can help you connect that initiative up to the strategy that it is going to enable. I can help you enter whatever you need to say that business architecture can do. So this is where really the magic happens of business architecture. It's not in the artifacts, the deliverables. Yes, we need to know those things in order to provide that magic, but the magic is where we actually get people to understand the value of business architecture.
I love that, Breanne, and this is a crucial point because most of the time the confusion is not about different experiences or different intelligence levels between people. It's about how business architecture can help organizations see the value and realize the value behind that. And that's why we mentioned a lot of times, it's not one size fits all. You have your tools, but you have to understand how I can use these tools in my organization and in my context. I totally agree with you. Do you agree with that summary?
I do, absolutely.
Awesome. And I would like to build on that. If you had to explain how business architecture works to someone who's struggling to understand it without showing any diagrams, as we discussed, how would you describe it?
Taking away all of the business architecture terms, as we mentioned, we have our capability, value streams, business, we have all of the artifacts. We know those like the back of our hand. What I like to explain to people about business architecture is, as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we're walking into a building, we see rooms, we see people, we see lights, we see plumbing, electricity, but why was it structured this way? Why did business architecture digs in, finds out the facts? I always love to call them the facts of the business because that really takes the drama out of it when you get to the magic, to the value. So we're going to figure out, what do we do as a business? What are our rooms in the business? Why did we put the layout this way? What value are we getting from this layout? Who is involved? Who needs to be involved when? Why did we structure our organization this way? And where do we plug them into the rooms, right, to provide the most value for our end customer? And then the data that really connects it all. So we call them information concepts, but a lot of people call them data. We'll get into that later. But making sure it's defined, it's identified, we know what we're doing and why with who. That's really what it is. And then pulling all those pieces together, then we can inform with those facts, not guessing, what should we be doing and when, not me making the decision, right? We're providing this to our leadership team to say, okay, I see your strategy. Here's what, why, who, how. I'm informing you of if we do this, then this, or we can do this if we do this. They make the decision, but it's informed ahead of making change. So we know what to do and when to do it. So we don't deploy a new solution that just alienated a whole business unit. No, we know that up front. So we can do all of these things with that map, if you will. So that's really taking all the artifacts out of it, the business architecture. We go in. What do we do? How do we do it? Why do we do it? For the customer centricity. Okay, now give me your strategy. I can manipulate it with those pieces, and then I can inform you so you can make the best decision.
What I like about this explanation is that it shifts the focus away from artifacts and toward the real purpose behind business architecture. Thank you so much for raising this point, because it will help people see business architecture as a way of organizing, understanding, not as a modeling exercise.
One more thing I think I would say with that is we also need to remember that when we're explaining business architecture, sometimes it's misunderstood how we even fit in with other architecture domains. So what we're not saying is how we say how, who, what, why, right, that business architecture can provide. Again, that is from the business point of view. So we also need to keep in mind that we're not stepping on other architects' toes for the app data tech solution. right? We're not giving that, but what we can provide is the business framework, point of view, and then work with those other architecture domains. When we all come together, which we'll get into, but when we all get together, that's what provides the overall business value. But business architecture will provide you with the business lens of the impacts and the how and the why, whereas then the other architecture domains come in and help as well. So it's everybody working in the sandbox together is what I like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you so much for bringing that up, because we will tackle this point as you discussed, the alignment between different architecture domains. And this will help a lot to clarify some myth about having different roles and different responsibilities. So let us discuss the metamodel. You know that this term tends to scare a lot of people away immediately. How do you explain its role in a simple, practical way without turning into a theoretical discussion between different opinions and different schools, if we can say that?
I hate to say I love a meta model. It does scare people away, but I think what you just said, right? It's factual. It sees how we connect people. It's not one meta model or the other. You know, we have a lot of different companies out there that are making different meta models, but if you look at them and pull them together for your business, for your purpose, they're really saying the same thing. We need to work together. So our meta model, you can go to BizBock, right, of how capabilities, value streams, how all these very high level pieces, right? We're talking the highest level is this meta model. I'm not saying what capabilities right now are linked to what value streams, what information concepts are linked to what value streams, what business units. I'm not going into the detail yet, but that meta model gives us a reference point to say, okay, I'm going to use this tool, this piece. I'm going to use capabilities, or I'm going to use applications, or I'm going to take whatever topic, if you will. Okay, I have a map. That's really what it is. It's a map to say, if I need to see what is that going to impact, what else do I need to take into account? So if I'm looking at a value stream to solve a problem, I can use this map to say, oh, I should also go see what information concepts are going to be impacted. Oh, I should get the application people involved to have a conversation because this is also connected to applications. It's just a high-level map. And I love it to call it even a collaboration map, because it's not just only in-house, but who do I need to pull into my sandbox and when to solve a business problem? This is really what a meta model is. It helps you structure what you're doing, the impacts that it has, the connections that it has to help you. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, to be honest. And if I can recap this, the meta model is really about consistency and shared logic between different stakeholders, like the sandbox that you mentioned. It's not something extra you add if something that is already there, whether you are conscious of it or not. The meta model is already there. You just have this high level blueprint or plan to show you where to start and when to start and so on and so forth. Do you agree with that?
I do. And I love how you said consistency, because I think that is so important, that it's not changing based on the scenario or the stakeholder we're working with. It is your consistency to go back to. So I do agree with you there. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's always about creating a common understanding for the whole organization, and metamodel is a cornerstone for that, if we can say that. And if I can build on this point, I would like to ask you some sort of more detailed question, where what usually breaks down when organizations start creating business architecture artifacts without shared underlying structure or the common language that we discussed?
This is so important. I have seen this, and it's eye-opening. It really is. It's great that people dig in and want to, identify business architecture artifacts. However, what I will say is you need to have that meta model to know what are all the pieces that you need to take into account for that overall value. It's not just one artifact or another. They are meant to collaborate together, to map together. So just as an example, if we just take business architecture out of it again, because we're, meeting people where they are, I like to think of it as a tool in a tool belt. You can even bring that up to your meta model, right? You have all the tools that you have in your belt or your tool chest in your garage, wherever it may be. You have your hammer, screwdriver, saw, tape measure, what is
Yeah.
level, what isn't.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how each one works together or the purpose of them, you will not provide the end value. So for example, I've seen this, if somebody is trying to use a capability, say a hammer, for something that needed a level, you're not going to get value out of it. So first, you do need to understand each of those boxes in your meta model, each of the tools in your tool belt, the purpose of each, how they work together. Otherwise, you may be calling something, okay, we've seen it, right? Spoiler alert, somebody might call a process a capability, or a capability is a process. Like, no, that's not a capability. Omar, is AI a capability? So many people are calling AI a capability. It's not,
Yes.
right? So understanding what is what, so you can bucket it together and then connect it with the other pieces so you can see the bigger whole, that is really important. So if you don't have that structure or that understanding, it may be on soft ground. It may not be that stable base that you need for your business.
I totally agree with you. I can't relate more. And I would say this is where a lot of teams struggle. They create very good looking artifacts, but over time, things stop lining up. And they wonder why. They cannot explain why that. They say, I did my job. I created the capability map. I've linked the capabilities to value streams and so on and so forth. So yeah, 100% agree with you. And behind the scenes, why this understanding, this structure, so important before we start talking about business architecture domains or strategy execution in general?
You can't use one piece only when you're executing on your strategy. Okay, so if we go in and we're only using capabilities, we're only using that hammer, you're not going to be able to develop that. It's taking it out of context of what it's used for. So really being able to do that cross mapping, if you will, see how they do fit, but not just, I loved your example because I've cross mapped my capabilities to value streams, but it's not working. Okay, then step back. Why? Maybe it is you have a process as a capability. Maybe you're using a screwdriver when you should have been using a hammer, right? So step back and really understand the fundamentals of what is each of your tool. Again, how do they fit together? But then once you do have that stability and you do cross map it, then you can pull those levers as you need to. Because what we're going to get to even in this conversation is you need to have this base. It's great we talk about the artifacts of business architecture. Because one, you do have to trust the process. You do really have to understand your tools. You do have to understand that meta model, that collaboration map of how they fit together. That's a given. You have to have that base of business architecture. But then especially what we're going to start building upon is then the value, the magic that it brings out. How do we fit those pieces together? So it's super important that we can't build a business on a shaky ground. We have to first have that stability. But I don't think, Omar, what neither you or I are saying is that business architecture is only about those tools. Because some people think that too, right? That I'm just going to go in, I cross map my capabilities to value streams. Now I'm going to hand that off to my business to figure out. No, that's on the business architect as well, right? That's when we make that magic happen. Back to how do we even talk about business architecture? What is it? We speak about the value that it can provide. That's in those scenarios. So it is very important. We have to know that solid base and the connections in order to then go and provide the value of business architecture.
That's a key point. If people don't understand the structure, the full structure that holds everything together in the organization, every next conversation becomes harder and harder than it needs to be with the business. And I totally agree with you, business architects. And that's why we have this series together, to connect everything, to tell business arcs out there, guys, we have a lot to do. It's not about artifacts only. It's about bringing the right value to the organization and to the right stakeholders. Any final thoughts?
Oh, I think you hit it right on the head. I think that's great.
Awesome, man. And this episode is about orientation. Before you can use business architecture effectively, you need to understand how it works as a discipline and why structure matters more than individual diagrams. In the next episode, we are going to take one step back before the models. We will talk about shared meaning, common understanding, why information models, concept models, and business rules are so critical, and how many execution problems start long before any system or process is designed. Thank you, Breanne, again for joining me today. See you in the next episode.
Thank you.
you.